Picture this. You are in a swimming pool. You can smell the chlorine.
Oh yeah, that heavy indoor pool smell.
Exactly. And you hear the echoing shouts of kids splashing around, and you look up at the tall chair. The lifeguard is perched up there, sunglasses on, whistle ready.
Looking very official.
Totally. And you might think, well, because you are in the water, that they are watching you. But here is the completely counterintuitive truth. They aren't watching you.
No, they really are.
They are specifically not watching you. Welcome to today's deep dive, where we are going to look at a fascinating internal school document that takes this exact lifeguard secret and turns it into a masterclass on how we manage risk, teams, and blind spots in our own lives.
It's a slightly unsettling thought at first, isn't it? I mean, we like to imagine this protective gaze is locked onto us individually.
Right, like we're the main character.
Exactly. But the reality of risk management in that environment is entirely different.
Yeah. So the document we are looking at is titled, What a DSL Can Learn from a Lifeguard Scanning the Whole Pool. Now, to give you some quick context, DSL stands for Designated Safeguarding Lead.
Right.
That's the person in a school environment whose primary job is protecting students from harm. But our mission today isn't just about school administration. We're taking this document and extracting some incredible universal shortcuts to understanding complex leadership.
Which is so applicable to everything.
It really is. Customized specifically for you, the listener. If you love finding surprising aha moments in unexpected places, this one is absolutely for you.
The parallels in this document are just striking. Because whether you are running a school, managing a corporate team, or just trying to navigate complex systems in your own life, the fundamental mechanics of how we pay attention.
And what we completely miss.
Yes, it's exactly the same.
Okay, let's unpack this. The document starts by explaining that lifeguards are actively standing. Their eyes are in constant motion, left to right, near to far, surface to depth.
Constant movement.
Right. And the core premise here is that the moment a lifeguard focuses on just one swimmer, they have inherently missed something else.
Because safeguarding, whether it's physical safety in a pool or emotional and physical safety in a school, it's fundamentally a scanning discipline.
Okay, a scanning discipline.
Yeah, it is not about passive observation. A DSL, much like a lifeguard, is not just a responder waiting for an alarm to go off. They have to be a system-level observer.
System level, got it.
Right, meaning they're monitoring multiple individuals simultaneously, and more importantly, they are tracking patterns across time.
So you're moving from looking at an individual to looking at a whole environment.
Exactly.
And the document points out how incredibly complex this gets, especially in international schools where, you aren't just looking at one type of kid. A DSL has to scan across borders versus day students.
Very different routines there.
Oh, completely. They have to differentiate between what is a cultural behavior and what is an actual safeguarding signal. They are scanning online environments and offline environments. I mean, it's an immense amount of data to process.
And that immense data load, it really mirrors what so many of us face today. Think about managing a modern hybrid workforce.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You have remote workers versus in-office workers. You have Slack channels, email threads, Zoom meetings, physical water cooler chats. The environments are totally split.
They're split everywhere.
Yeah, and the natural human tendency, when faced with that much fragmented, complex information, is to narrow our focus to the thing that is right in front of us.
The burning fire.
The act of concern, right.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I had a massive pushback while reading this exact section.
Oh, really? What was it?
Well, if I put myself in the shoes of a leader or a DSL, let's say there's a loud swimmer.
Right.
Like a high-profile student going through a highly complex, very visible family situation. Or in the workplace, an employee who is loudly struggling and constantly asking for help isn't giving them my full, undivided attention exactly what a dedicated professional should do.
It feels right, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels like the responsible thing is to focus on the person who is clearly in crisis.
Well, what's fascinating here is that giving into that urge is exactly what creates the most dangerous blind spots.
Okay.
The document refers to this as the one-swimmer trap.
The one-swimmer trap.
Right. When you fixate on the obvious swimmer, the loud one, the one making a splash, the one constantly in your office, you are consuming all of your attention bandwidth.
It actually reminds me of a team I managed a few years ago. I had this one employee, let's call him a very loud swimmer.
Okay, I know the type.
Right. Constantly in my office, always had a crisis. Every project was a fire drill. I spent like 90% of my management bandwidth trying to keep this person afloat.
Because you cared.
Right. I thought I was being a dedicated leader, but because I was completely fixated on them, I completely missed that my quietest, most reliable, highest performing team member was burning out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they ended up quitting, and I was completely blindsided.
See, that is the perfect real-world translation of the one swimmer trap. While you're staring at the splash,
Mm-hmm.
the quiet swimmer slips under unnoticed.
That is so true.
And the document highlights a really sobering professional risk. Safeguarding failures almost always occur outside the current priority case.
Wait, really? Outside the priority case?
Yeah, the cases that consume all your time matter, absolutely.
Hmm.
But if you allow them to dominate your focus, the background noise becomes a danger zone. You have to constantly ask yourself, who am I not looking at right now?
Who am I not looking at right now? That is such a profound question for any manager or parent, really, who has become background noise. So, if focusing all our energy on the active, visible crisis creates these massive, dangerous blind spots, then how is a leader supposed to actually intervene? Like, what should they be doing with their time?
That's a great question.
This brings us to a concept in the text that completely flips the script on how we view heroics. The document states that the best lifeguards rarely ever enter the water.
Which completely shatters that Hollywood image we have.
Totally.
The slow motion dive into the pool to save the day. I mean, that's deeply ingrained in us as the pinnacle of success.
Yeah, we are culturally conditioned to view the dramatic rescue as the ultimate sign of competence. You know, the manager pulling an all-nighter to save a doomed project, the leader swooping in to break up a massive conflict.
Yeah.
But the reality is a rescue is actually a late-stage intervention. If a lifeguard is in the water, it means a situation has already escalated to the point of a crisis.
Exactly. The best lifeguards stay dry because they intervene early, they manage behavior proactively, and they spot the risk before it ever requires a dramatic rescue.
Just how does that look in a school?
Well, translating that back to the school environment or any organizational structure, really, leadership is so often misunderstood as simply responding to incidents.
Just putting out fires.
Right. But high-functioning systems aren't built on reaction. They're built on early identification. The most effective DSLs, or managers for that matter, are actually not the busiest ones.
That is such a great metric. If you are constantly running from crisis to crisis, your system is failing.
Because it means you are only dealing with late-stage symptoms. Effective leaders engage in proactive environmental control.
Proactive environmental control.
Yeah. They don't just wait for a formal disclosure of harm or a massive project failure. They look at the architecture of their environment and adjust supervision in known blind spots.
Oh, I see.
For example, if a DSL knows the stairwell gets rowdy at 3:15 p.m., they don't wait in their office for a fight to break out. They just stand near the stairwell at 3:dead p.m.
Oh, wow.
The mere presence alters the ecosystem before a problem even starts.
Okay, so what does this all mean? To me, it feels incredibly similar to the difference between playing man-to-man coverage and playing a zone defense in sports.
Oh, that's a brilliant way to look at it.
Right, because if you are just reacting to the kid or the employee in crisis, you are playing man-to-man. You are exhausting yourself chasing one player around the court, and you are entirely vulnerable to what the rest of the opposing team is doing.
Yeah, you're leaving the whole court open.
But if you play zone defense, you aren't just guarding a single player. You are guarding the space. You are watching the passing lanes, the movement of the whole game. You are managing the environment itself.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you are shifting your perspective from the individual to the ecosystem. The source material emphasizes this brilliantly. Risk doesn't just sit in the swimmer.
Where does it sit?
It sits in the depth of the pool. It sits in the crowd density. It is shaped by group behaviors, the temperature of the water, the glare of the sun.
So the environment itself is the variable.
Exactly. In a school, risk sits in the peer dynamics. It sits in the boarding house culture, the online spaces, the time of day vulnerabilities.
Just like the stairwell example.
Right. Maybe the corridor between the science block and the gym is totally safe at 10 in the morning. But at 3:15, the crowd density completely changes the risk profile. A student or an employee rarely becomes vulnerable in total isolation. Their vulnerability is almost always shaped by the context surrounding them.
Man, if vulnerability is shaped by the context of the room, you can't possibly understand that broader ecosystem or spot those environmental shifts if your perspective never changes.
No, you can't.
Your vantage point has to change. The document breaks down the actual physical mechanics of movement for a lifeguard, and it is fascinating. Lifeguards don't just sit in one chair all day.
No, they rotate.
Right, they constantly rotate positions. They move to get different angles, different vantage points. Because the source points out a physical truth static observation creates blind spots.
Because our brains are wired for efficiency. If you look at the same environment from the exact same angle every single day, your brain just stops processing new information.
It gets bored.
Yeah, it just fills in the blanks with what it expects to see. For a designated safeguarding lead, if their view is permanently fixed to one office desk or one specific reporting stream, or they only ever talk to one group of staff, they're missing a huge part of the picture.
Think about your own day-to-day for a second. If you sit at the exact same desk, taking the exact same route to the break room, your brain stops seeing your office environment.
It becomes invisible.
Totally invisible. You stop noticing the mood of the marketing department because you never walk past their pods anymore. You are physically creating your own blind spots without realizing it.
You really are.
You have to get up and walk the floor. A DSL has to walk the boarding environment at different times of day. They have to engage with students informally outside the context of a formal meeting. They have to intentionally vary their visibility.
It's the only way to disrupt that cognitive efficiency and actually see what is happening. Because if you don't vary your perspective, you won't notice the subtle shifts.
And those shifts matter.
They do, because noticing the subtle shifts is quite literally a matter of life and death in these environments. The document transitions here into a very sobering reality from the aquatic world. Drowning is often completely silent.
Yeah, that section hit hard. I mean, we always picture the splashing, the waving arms, the yelling for help.
The loud swimmer again.
Right. But the reality is usually no shouting, no splashing.
Just subtle distress, a quiet struggle, gradual submersion. We are biologically and culturally trained to look for the loud distress signals, but the most dangerous moments are entirely quiet.
Wow.
In safeguarding, the loud cases are highly visible. Everyone knows about the student throwing a chair or the employee yelling in a meeting. But the quiet ones are where the true existential danger lies.
Which leads to a part of the source that really made me pause. It lists indicators to watch for in these silent cases. Sudden withdrawal, reduced engagement, kids dropping off the radar. Well, all of that makes intuitive sense.
Sure, you expect a struggling person to pull away.
But it also listed overcompliance as a major red flag.
Ah, yes.
And I was like, wait, overcompliance? Usually a hyper-compliant kid, the one who never causes trouble, the no-issues kid, they are seen as the ultimate success story in a school. Why is being incredibly well-behaved suddenly a warning sign?
This raises an important question about how we define safety versus convenience.
Okay.
We often conflate convenience with well-being. A hyper-compliant student is extremely convenient for the system. They don't take up resources. But the professional truth we have to confront is that the absence of concern is not evidence of safety.
It's like a car engine. If it's making a loud clanking sound, you know there's a problem. But if it suddenly stops making any noise at all, sometimes the complete lack of friction, the dead silence, is the biggest warning light on the dashboard.
That's a great way to look at it, because overcompliance can absolutely be a trauma response.
A trauma response, wow.
Yeah. A student who's experiencing chaos, unpredictability, or abuse elsewhere might become hypervigilant and overly compliant in school as a survival mechanism.
Trying to fly under the radar.
Exactly. They are trying to control their environment by avoiding drawing any attention to themselves whatsoever. They are masking their struggle. They don't want to make waves, quite literally.
Wow.
And if a leader only looks for the loud, disruptive behaviors as signs of risk, they will completely overlook the child who is quietly drowning right in front of them.
They just become part of the background noise. It really forces a complete rethink of how we allocate our attention.
It really does.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The document includes a section it calls the honest bit. And it outlines where this lifeguard metaphor actually breaks down.
Because no metaphor is perfect.
Right. Because if you rely on it too literally, if you think running a school or a business is exactly like sitting on a pool deck, you create a whole new set of risks.
Yeah, a DSL must not fall into the trap of thinking they can actually see everything. That is the illusion of control.
You can't see the whole pool.
You can't. Unlike a lifeguard looking at physically clear water, Safeguarding in a human ecosystem is not purely visual.
Right, a lifeguard observes physical risk. They can physically see if someone is struggling to stay afloat. But a DSL is trying to interpret emotional risk, social risk, digital risk. I mean, it is infinitely more opaque.
Furthermore, lifeguards are looking for clear, immediate physical distress signals that require an immediate singular response.
You jump in and grab them.
Right, you see the person going under, you jump in, you pull the person out of the water. It's binary. You are drowning, now you are not.
Makes sense.
But DSLs, on the other hand, are dealing with highly ambiguous indicators. A drop in grades, a subtle shift in friend groups, that overcompliance we just talked about.
They don't trigger a single rescue.
Exactly. These don't trigger a single dramatic rescue. They require what the document calls layered response pathways.
Okay, walk me through what a layered response pathway actually looks like mechanically. Because you can't just, grab a kid who is suddenly quiet and declare them rescued.
Right, you can't just pull them out of the situation. A layered response means instead of a single dramatic action, you're deploying a systemic net.
A net, okay.
The DSL might discreetly check in with the student's other teachers to see if the pattern holds in other classrooms. They might loop in a school counselor to initiate a casual conversation. They might have a subtle check-in with the parents.
Ah, I see.
You are gathering data from multiple touchpoints and adjusting the support environment around the student over time without necessarily confronting them head-on with a siren blaring.
It's a collective effort, and I think that points to perhaps the biggest difference of all. The lifeguard is usually operating alone on that chair.
Yes. Very true.
It's an individual responsibility in that split second. But a DSL cannot operate alone. If they try to be the lone hero on the chair, the system will inevitably fail.
This is exactly where the document shifts from individual action to system-level leadership. It's about building a scanning culture. A single DSL or a single CEO can never see the whole pool, but an entire staff can.
Right.
Your goal as a leader isn't to be the best spotter. It's to ensure that every teacher, every administrator, every coach is trained to notice early.
You are democratizing the peripheral vision. You need a culture where concerns are shared, not held onto as private burdens, where tiny, seemingly insignificant patterns are discussed openly, not isolated in a single classroom or a single department.
That's the goal.
The ultimate test of the system is this is the organization just sitting back, waiting to react to a crisis. Or is it actively, collectively scanning for risk?
It requires a fundamental shift in mindset for everyone involved. It moves the responsibility of safety from one person on a pedestal to the entire community walking the floor.
It really does. And as we bring this home to you, the listener, I want to pull this completely out of the school and the swimming pool for a second.
Let's do it.
Because the core themes here, the illusion of focus, the one-swimmer trap, the danger of the quiet struggle, the need for changing our vantage point, they apply everywhere.
Universally.
Yeah. Whether you are leading a corporate team, managing a complex logistics project, or just trying to navigate our modern world of endless information overload, the ultimate question from this text applies directly to you. Where is your attention currently fixed, and what might you be missing because of it?
The final reflection from the source material sums it up perfectly. The lifeguard doesn't wait for the splash. They prevent it.
They prevent it.
They deliberately move their gaze before the problem ever appears because they understand a fundamental truth about risk. Risk is not where you are looking. It is where you are not.
It's where you're not. Let's leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over today. Think about your own daily workflows. Think about the systems you've built to handle the loud crises in your professional life.
The things making a splash.
Exactly. Your overflowing email inbox. That high alert Slack channel that constantly pings with urgent requests. What if those very tools, the ones designed to keep you informed and responsive, are actually creating static blind spots?
Wow.
Imagine applying this active peripheral scanning principle to your own team dynamics or even your family life this week. Who are the quiet swimmers in your own ecosystem right now that have simply become background noise? Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Keep your head on a swivel, and we will catch you next time.